Shwmae, a diwrnod Shwmae hapus iawn I chi. Hello and a happy Shwmae Day. A day to celebrate the Welsh language and to get as many people as possible to start a conversation in Welsh. To celebrate, we've taken over the English University accounts today to bring you our first ever Welsh lesson, one with a little bit of a difference. We've joined forces with Dysgu Cymraeg by Abertawe, Learn Welsh Swansea Bay to both educate and inspire learners of all levels, as well as fluent Welsh speakers, to learn something new in Welsh. We can guarantee there'll be no property pings or pysgod wibbly wobbly in today's session, but I'm sure that you leave having discovered something new, be it of the language or our culture, and hopefully inspire our non-Welsh speakers to pursue it further. I'm happy to introduce to you Emyr Jones, who will be taking today's lesson. A former teacher and head teacher, and now a tutor with Dysgu Cymraeg, Emyr has a wealth of knowledge and experience that I'm sure will become clear in today's session. Right, dyna ddigon wrtha I, that's enough from me. I'll hand you over to Emyr to start.
Okay. Fawr iawn, Bethan. So, Shwmae, Emyr dwi. Hi, I'm Emyr and I work with Dysgu Cymraeg, Learn Welsh Swansea Bay region within Academy Hywel Teifi here at the university, organising Welsh classes, particularly within the workplace. And this year, along with a host of university lecturers and staff members, with a new PGCE course and a host of medical students, we are already teaching almost 200 students. I thought that today I would introduce you to a little Welsh by looking at place names, their meanings, and on a day-to-day basis, something that's useful for you, how to pronounce these places. So if you're new to Wales, or whenever we return from a journey to England, if we cross Pont, the Severn Bridge, you'll see this sign, Croeso I Gymru. Now, Cymru is the Welsh word for Wales. But sometimes letters change for different reasons within the Welsh language. So in this phrase, we say Croeso I Gymru. Now, speaking with you today, today, I hope to share with you some of my passion for Wales and the Welsh language, to inspire you to develop your confidence and your use of the language at whatever level, as Bethan said, so that you are bilingual or multilingual students contributing to a bilingual and multilingual Wales. So, diwrnod Shwmae is a day to celebrate not just the Welsh language, but diversity within Wales. We have two distinct dialects, North Walian and South Walian, and this is reflected in the title, Shwmae, Cymraeg. But Wales has far more to offer. There is a wealth within our language along this north-south continuum. How many different ways are there in the English language of greeting someone? Well, in Wales, we have a large number of greetings that are used not just for today, but every day of the year. We have bore da, good morning. Pnawn da, good afternoon. Hiya, be sy'n mlaen de, shwti, Shwmae, lots of other variations, and even what's occurring has been made famous within Gavin and Stacey, although that's not a traditional Welsh phrase at all. Now, let's look at these signs. What relevance do you think these signs have to pointing you as students in the Welsh direction? Can you follow my train of thought? Well, certainly in Wales, there is no U-turn. Wales is moving ahead towards a bilingual 2050. Not two languages that are working against each other, but rather flowing together and joining. Yes, we may sometimes need to prioritize one language over the other along the way. And that way is indeed going to be difficult at times. Learning a language will offer its challenges, and it's sure to be a bumpy ride at times. But we here at the Academy will guide you along your journey. And yes, you won't find a no entry sign at the Academy. We want everyone to be included. And with our lessons now via Zoom, they are more accessible to learners than ever before. And the last sign, the bridge. It makes me think of us as tutors acting like a bridge. as an old Welsh saying goes, afo ben, bid Pont, Bendigeidfran, the giant in the Mabinogi tales, literally becoming the bridge to lead his men to battle. We don't want to fight about this, but I just want to help you cross that bridge from becoming a non-Welsh speaker, possibly, to becoming a bilingual person. So today I want to look at Welsh place names, places that can mean so much to us. Now on a map and all around, you will see places maybe that don't have only a Welsh name. Pwllheli, yeah. Tregaron. We have Aberaeron, Llanelli, and Porthcawl. Some places maybe that you're familiar with, or maybe places that you would like to visit while you are here in Wales. There are other places that have only an English name, such as Port Talbot. Port Talbot, pronounced in Welsh, but it's still the same spelling, Port Talbot. But the vast majority will have bilingual names. Caergybi, Holyhead in the north, Drenewydd, Newtown, and Caerfyrddin, Carmarthen. So why do we have bilingual place names? Well, I'm no historian, but put simply, originally they would have been Welsh names, many based on Celtic or Roman influences like Nidwm, the Roman fort in Neath. Nidwm became Nedd, and the castell refers to a castle, Castell Nedd. Now many Welsh place names were also anglicised over the centuries, and certainly during the Industrial Revolution, when new settlements were created, they were often named after the influential landowners, such as the Talbots in Port Talbot or Morristown. And as you can see, these places connect us to the history of Wales and the history of its people. And the people that are living here today, the Welsh history is constantly evolving. They help us to understand the world around us. Place names in themselves can be expressive and can evoke our senses and emotions, especially when linked to the arts, as we'll see later on. Yes, there are place names all around us. Everyday language hiding a wealth of information about our language and culture. I'd like to start by asking you the question, where, in your opinion, is the heart of Wales? Ble mae calon Cymru? Where is the heart of Wales? Bethan, maybe you'd like to answer, where, in your opinion, is the heart of Wales?
Calon Cymru fi, the heart of Wales for me would certainly be Llanymddyfri or Llandyfri, where I was born and brought up and lived for nearly 20 years. That's where my childhood was, and that to me was the heart of my country.
Yeah, I can understand that, Beth. And similarly for me, I would say it's the Gwendraeth Valley, Llangendeirn, the village where I was actually born and brought up, has a very special place. And we should all be proud of our home place if we can be, and that could be anywhere in Wales or anywhere around the world. But we have special places based on our personal history, maybe. So if we extend that, and you as listeners, you could have other places in Wales that you think are important. Maybe there are three places, three very special places, a very special holiday that you had, or friends or relatives where your gran lived, might extend your experience of Wales. You may think about places, it could be mountains within Wales, very special journey, or maybe having reached the summit of yr Wyddfa, Snowdon, yr Wyddfa. Now, did you choose places with a Welsh only name, like Aberystwyth? Or did you choose somewhere that only has an English name? Or did you choose somewhere which was bilingual? And do we know the meanings of some of these places? So let's look around the close vicinity to begin with. Some places around the Swansea area. Places that I hope newcomers to Wales will eventually be able to explore. I appreciate that at the moment there are current travel restrictions, and I'm not suggesting that you as students go everywhere, but in time, bit by bit, I hope that you will be able to explore the local area. So here in Swansea, you might hear of a place called Olchfa. Olchfa. And that means the washing place, where the Gower cockle women would wash their feet, having walked barefoot to save the tread on their clogs, before travelling on to the town centre, yes, town centre then, Swansea town, not Swansea city, to sell their wares at Swansea market. Before the industrialisation of Swansea, you'd have had green hills all around. Places like Bryn Hyfryd, Lovely Hill, exists here in Swansea, as in other many Welsh towns across Wales. And also imagine Mynydd Bach, Little Hill, before becoming so built up. We also have Hafod. Now, Hafod reminds us of the agricultural heritage here in Wales, the agriculture which would have surrounded Swansea. Haf, the first part of the word, Hafod, Haf, means summer. Now, Hafod would have been the summer residence of the farmers, normally higher up in the hills, while they would have moved to the shelter of the Hendre, lower down in the valley, for the winter. Now, with the industrial areas becoming more multilingual, Welsh names sometimes had an English translation or evolved into English names. So we now speak of Landor. Landor in Swansea. It has nothing to do with land and ore or copper ore, which Swansea was famous for. It's on the riverside, and the original place name was Glandur. And with people not being able to correctly pronounce, that then morphed into Landor. So you have other places. We have Llanmadog out on the Gower Peninsula. You might like to visit a wonderful beach there, Llanmadog. Cymraeg y Caerw. Some of our medical students would be familiar because there is a hospital near Cymraeg y Caerw, the Morriston Hospital. Now, it sounds idyllic, Cymraeg y Caerw, the valley with the ford and the running deer. You will not see any deer in Cymraeg y Caerw these days, and certainly not in the past either. The original name was Cymraeg y Cwrw, the valley with the ford of beer, because there was a brewery there. But during the religious revival, people didn't want to be associated with the evils of drink, and so the village was renamed Cymraeg y Cwrw. Some of you might be staying over in Hendre. And up in the Swansea Valley and Neath Valleys, we have lots of places starting with Ynys. We have Ynys Tawe, Ynys Forgan. Now, Ynys, you might be familiar with Ynys y Barry. Ynys y Barry, not as close to Swansea, Barry Island. And it's now most famous as being the Welsh location for Gavin and Stacey. But you won't find any islands in the Swansea Valley or the Neath Valley. Now, Ynys also means river meadow. We have Mumbles, the Mumbles, Mumbles, or another fantastic beach, Llangennith. We also have a place in Swansea called the Vetch, and that has no Welsh translation, never has. It's been known as Vetch in Welsh, Vetch, the Swansea football ground. Now the ground is reverting to its original meaning in a way, because the vetch was actually a type of pea that grew on the fields where they then turned it into a sporting ground, a football pitch. And now, of course, That pitch, no longer needed, has been turned back into allotments. Ysbyty, quite close to the university campus. We have ysbyty, not a place in itself. Ysbyty, Singleton, or we have ysbyty Treforys, Morriston. Morriston Hospital, ysbyty. It's quite a difficult word because it doesn't appear to have any vowels in it. But in Welsh, the W and the Y are also vowels. So ysbyty, ysbyty Singleton, and ysbyty Treforys. The last part of the word, T, some people might be familiar with. T, it's where you're living, your house. T, and ysbyty. It's actually from another word, ysbryd T. So ysbyty literally means the house of spirits, the house of ghosts. It's not something we like to remind patients when they're in hospital, that that is the original meaning of the word. And then if you move further afield, you might hear of Porth Cawl and want to visit the beach that we have there. And you might have heard that in Wales, we have a very nice traditional cawl, a broth cawl. Porth Cawl has nothing to do with that meal. Cawl is normally made with lamb, potatoes and vegetables, including leeks. But this seaside resort is named after the sea kale. Cawl also means sea kale. So it's the port that was established near where there was a good supply of sea kale. Now, many places in Wales do actually follow a pattern. The random places that we talked about in Swansea there, let's try and make some sense out of all of the names that we have in Wales. So we have Aber. Of course, you are in Abertawe. Abertawe is the Welsh name for Swansea. Abertawe. And Aber means the mouth of the river or stream. So Abertawe is where the River Tawe meets the sea. Similarly, we have Aberteifi. It's where the River Teifi flows to the sea. There are two rivers there, Tawe and Teifi. Some of our other Welsh rivers are Taf, Tywi, Taff. They all originate from the Celtic word for dark water. And there are other rivers, not just in Wales, that also have come from that Celtic language. So we have the River Tamar, the Teme, the Tem, and the Thames. So even the River Thames originates from a Celtic origin. We have Aberystwyth, a rival university for Swansea. Aberystwyth. And most of those three places that I've talked about are on the coastline. So people very often think of Aber being where the river flows into the sea, but it's the mouth of the river. So the end of one river, and it might be joining the sea, but you will also see places like Aberhonfi. Aberhonfi, Brecon. It's inland. It's where the River Honfi, the mouth of the River Honfi, joins the River Usk. Another place that you might like visiting once you are allowed to visit. So crossing the river in Brecon was really important. So building a bridge there became very strategic, and certainly for the pilgrims, because they wanted to go on their pilgrimage to St. David's. And that's one of the reasons why Aberhonfi then became such an important town. We'll also see Aber outside of Wales. So Aberdeen shows that Welsh was spoken up in Scotland at one time as well. Aberdeen, meaning the same thing, the mouth of the River Dean, Aberdeen. Lots of other places in Wales start with Caer. Caer. So we have Caerdydd, our capital city. Caerdydd, coming from the Taf. The Taf is the river. Taf, Caerdaf, Caerdydd, and it has morphed into Caerdydd. Dydd, we also say for day. Dydd Llun, Dydd Mawrth, Dydd Mercher. So, but it's nothing to do with the day. It's a form of the river Taf, Caerdydd. And we have Caerfyrddin. Caerfyrddin, Carmarthen. Sometimes confused with Caernarfon, Carmarthen and Caernarfon, Caerfyrddin, Caernarfon. Not so similar in Welsh. And we also have Welsh names for places in England as well. So Caerfaddon is the Welsh name for Bath. And we have Caeredin, Edinburgh in Scotland, Caeredin. Another common starter for place names is Llan. Llan. Now, most of these refer to a church, a place, a town with an important church, or a village with an important church. But Llan originally just meant also it's just any enclosure. So we have in Welsh, we have Perllan for an orchard, where you would have your trees and have some sort of wall to protect them from the animals taking the fruit. So Perllan, and then Llan is more commonly now associated with a church, which would also have had a wall surrounding it, maybe to stop animals from going in to the sacred ground. So Llanelli, a church dedicated to Santes Elli, Llanelli. You might be doing some shopping in Llansamlet, just on the outskirts of Swansea, Llansamlet, and Llanmadogs, mentioned already previously. Most of the time, I said it refers to a church, but we have on Anglesey Llangefni, Llangefni. There is a church there, but it's named after the river Cefni, which flows near the church. Most of the time it refers to a saint, but Llangefni refers to the river Cefni, Llangefni. Another place, or other places, start with Rhyd. Rhyd means a ford, a crossing of a stream or a river. So we have Rhyd Aman for Aman Ford, and Rhyd Lydan, which is a wide ford, Rhyd Lydan. And again, we have Welsh names for places in England or further afield. And one example is Rhyd Ychen, Oxford, Rhyd Ychen. And another very familiar starter would be Pont. Pont comes from the Latin pont, bridge. So we Pont ar Dawe, Pont on the river Tawe, and Pont ar Ddilys, Pont ar Ddilys. Some examples of places with pont, but I'm sure you'll find a lot more. Now, these places are not just words on maps. They mean so much more to us, as I said. So the Welsh word for Cymru, for Wales, and the Welsh word for the Welsh people sound exactly the same, Cymru. Slight difference in spelling, Cymru, Cymru. We are as one with the country, its land, its rivers, its sounds and its images. So Cymru actually comes from the Brythonic word Cwmbrogi, and it means fellow countrymen. And over the centuries, and particularly in modern Wales, that means a diverse range of people, culture and languages that have been welcomed into Wales and then have an effect on the makeup of the more modern Wales. This is certainly more relevant when we look at street names or bridge names, which might not be Welsh, might not be English, but could reflect other languages. So we have in Carmarthen, we have Pont Lesnevan. Lesnevan in Brittany is the town that Carmarthen is twinned with. So when they built a new bridge, it's been called Pont Lesnevan. And there are many examples of street names or bridges that have other influences beyond Welsh and English. There are also lots of links with Wales and the world. There is a Bryn Mawr in Pennsylvania. We have a Bryn Mawr, if you travel along the Heads of the Valleys Road in South Wales. There's also a Bryn Mawr near Dolgellau. So what links the Bryn Mawr in Dolgellau with Pennsylvania? That is something that you might like to Google yourself and find out some of the interesting links that Wales has across the world. So looking at our people then, let's celebrate Wales and our Welsh artists who obviously live or are attracted to certain places and like drawing particular landscapes. So Cyffin Williams, you will have heard of, I'm sure, has drawn numerous pictures, certainly of the North Wales landscape. And in Pembroke, or Pembrokeshire, Sir Benfro, John Nat Fisher and Stan Rosenthal have been inspired by the landscape, but you see in some of these pictures, well, not just the landscape itself, but the people that exist in these certain places as well. So a particular favourite of mine is Joseph Herman from Ystrygynlais. Well, I say from Ystrygynlais, it's not universally well known, but it highlights how a Polish refugee who then came and settled in Ystrygynlais, and he then celebrated our landscape and our people, actually going down the mines with the miners, and as you can see here, going to the band practice with the local brass band. And in Swansea, Valerie Gans, another famous artist, again, looking at the people of Wales, or Aneurin Jones, well, from Powys originally, celebrated the people in Aberteifi, Ceredigion, Cardiganshire. Here we have an example from Ogwyn Davies, and this reflects not just the Welsh landscape, but the language that is associated with certain places. Here we have a picture of Capel Soar y Mynydd, and you can almost hear the hymns echoing in the valley behind the chapel, and the chapel itself has the words of the hymns. Some of our hymns in Wales are named after certain places, from where the composer lived, or, as we said, on some special places that they have in Wales, some special memories of some places, and they name the hymn after that place. But it's not just hymns, like Pen Machno, and even Cwmgïedd, the village that I live in, has a hymn named after it. We have lots of other associations and song associations with certain places. We have Pontypridd. What music comes to mind when you think of Pontypridd? Now, it could be a Welsh folk song, Pontypridd Mae'n Hariad. Or it could be father and son Evan and James, composers of our national anthem. Or it could be Sir Tom Jones singing about the green, green grass of home. Even though I have to admit that's an American song. It's got nothing to do with our lush green valleys. We have Blaenau Ffestiniog, Edward y Cwm, Hugh Chiswell, places that are immortalized in hymns and more current songs as well. We have places that have inspired poetry as well. Traeth y Pigyn by T.L. Jones, so Telly, Waldo, who lived in Pembrokeshire and loved writing about his home place. Melyn Trevine, Eifionydd, or the Bells of Rhymney. There are a large number of poetry, not many for Welsh learners, but when you learn Welsh and maybe as you progress through some of these poems and the vast wealth of literature that we have would be something that you can then access. Now, looking at the signs that are today bilingual reminds us of the 1960s campaign for bilingual signs. This campaign was immortalized in Dafydd Iwan's song Peintio'r Byd yn Wyrdd, Painting the World Green, Peintio'r Byd yn Wyrdd. Dafydd Iwan, a famous folk singer and a protest singer, and lots of his songs are linked with the fight for more recognition for the Welsh language, and the fight for bilingual signage is one of the most famous. There are many places, as I said earlier, that have only a Welsh name, and everybody manages to pronounce their names. Aberystwyth, closer to home, Clydach, Pont Ardawe. While in some of our more urban areas, there are more of English translations or English words, like Caerdydd becoming Cardiff. But with more and more housing developments in our towns and cities, we have seen what I feel is a very pleasing trend of giving new housing estates and streets Welsh-only names. And this is an attempt to redress the balance of the anglicised industrial tradition. So we have examples there, Llwyn-yr-Eos, Heol-y-Deri, so street names or estates that won't have an English equivalent. Forget Brexit and the American presidential election. There's plenty of relevant context within Welsh place names for a social and political discussion. Now, this trend for Welsh-only street names is echoed with our institutions and companies in Wales. We have the Senedd, the Welsh Parliament, and we have Estyn, Welsh Inspectorate, Gwe, Erw. If you go and buy some Dioni organic British cow's milk, it says British, but it's with a Welsh name, Dioni, and that means that it's full of goodness, Dioni. Taitarian, there are lots of examples of companies that are now proudly bearing Welsh-only names. As we look forward to 2050, then I hope that you will come across lots of places and be able to pronounce some of these places, which will be perhaps increasingly becoming just Welsh, as I said, with Welsh street names and so on. But that we don't forget some of our history as well, because some of the history explains some of these place names and they are important. So going to Machynlleth. Machynlleth is important because of many reasons, but one of the reasons is that we remember Owain Glyndŵr setting up the first Welsh Parliament in Machynlleth. Cilmeri is where the last true Prince of Wales, Llywelyn ein Lliw Olaf, was killed. Aberfan, you might have heard that. Aberfan, recently as part of the Crown series, showed the Queen visiting the mining disaster that struck the town in the 60s, Aberfan. So we have real places here that you might like to visit. Talacharn, Penyberth, Tryweryn, Rwyfas earlier on, the Snowdon. Cantre'r Gwaelod is a place that you won't be able to visit. Cantre'r Gwaelod. Part of our folk tales of towns and a place which is now under the sea in Cardigan Bay, Cantre'r Gwaelod. But you can see remnants of some trees and land that used to be habited. We believe there was inhabited where at certain times these relics then become apparent. There's another place that you will not be able to visit. Cymraeg. Sounds like a Welsh place name. Cymraeg. We talked about Llan earlier on. Llan meaning church, but Cymraeg. Cymraeg isn't an actual place, but it is within Dylan Thomas's Undermilk Wood. It doesn't actually mean anything in Welsh. But if you read the name backwards, then you will see Dylan Thomas's joke. Cymraeg, bugger all. Doesn't mean anything. And as you travel around Wales, you might come across the place with the longest name in Wales. And having looked at some of our other place names, you might like to have a go at pronouncing this place. So we have Llanfair. I'd like to repeat. Llanfair. Pwll. Gwyngyll. Goger y Chwyrn. Drobwll. Llandysilio. Goch. everybody's okay with the last part, go, go, go. And as with all or most Welsh place names in Wales, it actually does mean something. Llanfair, the Church of St Mary. Llanfair Pwll Gwyngyll, yeah, near the white chalk pool. Goger y Chwyrn Drobwll, which is also near a fierce whirlpool, Chwyrn Drobwll. And it was by the Church of Tysilio, St Tysilio, Llan Tysilio, and it was by the Red Cave, Ger y Rogof Goch, which then became Go Go Goch, Ger y Rogof Goch, near the Red Cave. So, as I said, the Welsh language is constantly evolving for us native speakers and for learners alike. And we're on this journey together, heading towards a multilingual 2050 and beyond. So thanks for joining me on this short journey to give you a taster of some Welsh place names and some of the Welsh language. And hopefully we've persuaded you to be pointing you in the Welsh direction, and we might be seeing you in some of our Welsh classes that are run specifically for you as students here on campus, or joining people in the Swansea Bay region to learn some Welsh. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Thank you very much.
Wel, diolch yn fawr I ti, Emyr. Fi yn bendant wedi dysgu rhywbeth newydd. I've certainly learned something new that I didn't already know, and I'm pretty sure that our viewers have too. I'll just pop up some information here to share with you. And basically, we're so lucky that there's so many opportunities here at Swansea Unit for people to learn or improve their Welsh. If learning is your thing, Learn Welsh has all the tools that you need to get started, be it student or staff. Sign up using the details here, and I'll pop everything on the social media channels for you today as well. Or maybe socialising in Welsh is more your thing. The Welsh Society, or the Gum-Gum as it's more commonly known, as well as Club Rugby Tower, host a number of social events throughout the year. And you don't even have to speak Welsh to join, so there's no excuses. Perhaps you just want to be surrounded by the soothing sounds of the Welsh language, or maybe just use some conversational Welsh here and there. The Club Rugby Tower or the Gum-Gum are the places for you. There's also, don't forget, Welsh Wednesdays that Katie Phillips, the Welsh Affairs Officer, hosts as part of the Students' Union. So contact her to find out more. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. This has definitely been the first and hopefully not the last Welsh lesson that we host on Facebook. And we've thoroughly enjoyed, and we really hope that you have too. If you have any questions or comments, please use the comment section below and we'll make sure to get back to you. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon, but diolch yn fawr am wylio. Thank you for watching.